let's talk about the events of yesterday. Firstly, the fact Trump went to Israel while hostages were being released rather than waiting until it was all done was probably risky because it could have gone awry, but it shows to me how invested Trump was in the process and in the freedom of those hostages.
And also how confident he was in what his advisors told him was the strength of that deal. You're absolutely right. I mean, you're flying a pretty long distance and a lot of things could happen. When he got on the ground is basically when the hostages were starting to be released. He felt confident enough in both Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Marco Rubio, and the rest of his team that he knew that he could count on the deal that had been agreed to. That says a lot about the confidence that he has in his people and in the belief they had in the strength of that deal. So yeah, I think it was risky, but it also Donald Trump, also knows how to seize a moment, and this was a moment. He could have waited, 48 hours or 72 hours, but this was the moment, and he wanted to be there for it, rightly so.
Well, speaking of seizing the moment, what did you make of Trump's historic address to the Knesset? He received more than 20 standing ovations during his speech, and he was introduced by Benjamin Netanyahu as the greatest friend Israel had ever had.
I mean, the funny thing about this is if you think about all of the names that I mentioned that folks on the left call Donald Trump, Hitler being a Nazi, etc., he has probably been the biggest friend to Israel over his two terms of any president in modern history. It's amazing what he has done, the amount of people that he has surrounded himself with that have a commitment and understanding of what it takes to get peace in that region. But that speech was historic. It was dynamic. It was very Trump, too. He injected some lines of humor in there. He made that one comment asking the president of Israel to consider pardoning Netanyahu. So there's a moment of levity, a moment of humor, historical significance. I love it. It was just very Trump.
And of course, people in the public gallery wearing MAGA-like hats, Trump, the peace president, was something that you would never expect to see. Trump speaking in a foreign parliament with people in the public gallery wearing what effectively were Trump hats.
I mean, look, the last 8-9 months since Trump's gotten back to office have amazed me. I mean, obviously, I thought that was a pretty interesting sight there in Israel, but I'm right now in downtown Washington D.C. When I joined President Trump during his first term, you wouldn't dare wear a MAGA hat on the streets of Washington D.C. Now they openly sell them at these kiosks on the sidewalk. So there's been a big sea change, not just nationally here, domestically here in the United States, but internationally in terms of recognizing President Trump's popularity and his strength.
Well, after speaking at the Israeli parliament, Trump traveled to Egypt for the peace summit. Here's some of what he had to say.
Today, for the first time anyone can remember, we have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to put the old feuds and bitter hatreds behind us.
Sean, as world leaders look on, Trump signs the peace plan along with the leaders of Egypt and Turkey, who've gone as guarantees of the plan. I mean, you talk about art of the deal. This is it. And I think Trump said this could probably be and will probably be the greatest deal he has ever or will ever make.
Yeah, again, I go back to what I said a moment ago, James. Think about these Arab states, the Palestinians, Israeli. I mean, these are people that have never gotten along. And to get all of them in a room together and to agree to have a stake in a lasting peace is truly just something that I think textbooks are going to write about and classes will be held on, for years, decades, centuries going forward. It was hugely significant. I also got a kick out of some of the leaders, no names mentioned, that happened to be standing beside him that were so quick to dismiss efforts just a few weeks ago, talking about the only solution is a two-state solution. This will never work. And yet we're quick and happy to stand behind President Trump once his way won out.
Well, I spoke earlier in the program about the fact that Trump was clearly demonstrating America is back, America is strong, and America is very much in charge, as well as negotiating peace in the Middle East. He also did use the opportunity to assert American strength and to make that message pretty clear to the rest of the world, didn't he?
Oh, he did. Look, I mean, you go back to what we did in Iran. President Trump, a very, very unconventional strike, right? Then you look at what he's been doing on tariffs, now this peace plan. This president has shown that America's back both economically, militarily, diplomatically. We're back in full force.
Well, no sooner had Trump finished in Egypt than it was announced that Ukraine President Zelensky had been invited to the White House for talks. So it seems to me, Sean, as if Trump is wanting to use the momentum that has clearly been generated out of this peace deal in the Middle East to now try to solve the Russia problem. And I would have thought the Russia problem is very difficult, but gee, if you can solve Gaza, maybe there's hope in Ukraine.
Well, that's true. I mean, if you can solve that piece, you know that you can achieve it in Russia and Ukraine. I think, look, there's no question. You're absolutely right. He's trying to ride this wave. He's on a high. I think the rest of the world is behind him, and he wants to leverage that political capital with a meeting to try to hopefully get Putin to realize that you don't come to the table. He gave Putin a lot of rope, if you will, a lot of runway to find peace, and I think he has grown short with his patience over how Putin has reacted. Putin has shown him a lack of respect, a lack of willingness to achieve peace. And I think the President Trump, in terms of both sharing intelligence and now this discussion about giving the Tomahawks, which would be a very, very offensive piece of weaponry that could strike into the heart of Russia, has shown Putin that your welcome is starting to get worn out real quick.
Well, Sean Spicer, it's been a remarkable 24 hours. I really appreciate you joining me to discuss it tonight. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thanks, James.